going on, guys? Welcome back. NFL commentary for you tonight. Do me a favor, the like button, subscribe button, criticism in the comment section, Twitter. Shutdown safety is my username. God, I've got good at saying that very quickly. I had someone ask me to talk about Blaine Gabbert. If you have a topic you want me to discuss and I feel like I'm knowledgeable on it, leave it in the description and I will do a video on it. If I'm not knowledgeable on it, then I'll just do it anyway and probably contradict and make myself look like an idiot, which I do in most videos, so everything will just kind of balance out. Blaine Gabbert, man. Do you want to feel old? Blaine Gabbert was drafted in 2011. Seems like just yesterday the Jaguars were hitching their wagons to him and hoping that he would drag them to the playoff land, but it certainly did not happen that way. And when I look at Blaine now, I'm totally torn between what I know about the situation, what I speculated was going to happen, and how I've seen him grow. But I hold all of that against him in very odd ways. So the first thing I want to talk about is obviously, the Jaguars traded up to get him. He initially, in my opinion, was not meant to go in and be a starter. I thought that the Jaguars were going to groom him in to a starting role, that he was going to stay behind David Garrard at the time and Luke McCown, and that they were going to have him come in those ultra rare situations where the Jaguars would have like this big lead build up in the fourth quarter, and that he would play into the starting role the following year. The way we used to see things get done before, a team would draft a quarterback, pay him a bunch of money. If he didn't win 5 of the first 5 games, then the GM was an idiot. They have a fire sale. They burn the team's stadium down, the way things are done now. Anyway, things didn't really work out that way. If you remember, Garrard got released, and it was, speculated they didn't know why. McCown played absolutely god-awful. So Gabbert kind of got forced into this starting role. He was really young. I think he was only, 22 or 23 when he was starting these games. He had, a foot injury of some type that was, very noticeable in him throwing the ball. And I remember that because he distinctly got sacked a lot. I don't remember the number, but I do know he got sacked a ton. But he also fumbled, I think, more than any quarterback in the league. He had a lot of fumbles that year, because I remember watching the Colts games against him, and that was Dan Fouts 1,000 times. Must have talked about how many times he fumbled. I do also distinctly remember that he had the second worst completion percentage in the league, only because Tim Tebow's was worse. So if that was the metric we were using, it was like Tebow and Gabbert were the worst. The 2012 season, which obviously would have been the year I felt like he should have just had started, he actually came out, I think they had the first game against the Jaguars, and he actually did pretty well, but the Jaguars tanked it in overtime, and then he just kind of had a rough couple weeks. He had I think he had a couple multiple interception games, or maybe games where multiple interceptions got returned for touchdowns, which always reflects really badly on quarterbacks. If you look at Matt Schaub gets beat up a lot for that. He can really control throwing a defensive touchdown. I mean, sometimes he baits them, but I remember that about the 2012 season. He also got hurt that year. That was the year he had to have surgery, and you kind of just got the vibe things were going downhill. He came back for the 2013 season, but he hurt his thumb, and then he pretty much just kind of went off into Neverland until Jim Harbaugh traded a 6th-round pick. Now keep in mind, you're talking about a team that traded up in 2011, and then in return they got a 6th-round draft pick. Go Jaguars. That's all I have to say to that. And then obviously, he came in, I think, some preseason games. I think he actually made one regular season start. I'm not a big Blaine Gabbert fan. I think he did come out and make one preseason start and played awful, just awful. And then this year, he almost has the reverse of what happened to him. Kaepernick goes down. He's not really expected to be the guy, but then he's kind of pushed into the starting role, and he looks like a totally different player. He looks like he should have looked in Jacksonville. He learned from all those situations. He took something from it. He looks like he's not playing with the Jaguars franchise on his shoulders. He's moving forward as a player, not regressing. He's learning from mistakes, not compounding them. He's one of those players that I don't want to say, you don't want to compare Blaine Gabbert to Brett Favre, but when he makes a mistake, it's just oh, well, and he goes back out there and still gets after it. He doesn't let it eat in his head about how do I not make that mistake again, and ends up making 6 or 7 other errors because he's just trying to play safe. He's standing in the pocket tall, more than I've ever seen him. He's actually building chemistry with receivers. He's going through progressions. Like, you can watch him now go through progressions. That run against the Chicago Bears where he scored a touchdown, running like a gazelle, a very slow gazelle, you could actually see him go through all his progressions. That's something that Blaine Gabbert did not do before. He's playing loose. You can just tell he's almost like comfortable and fun, which is the way football should be. And that really is the opposite of how he looked and played in Jacksonville. Now, unfortunately, having said all that, I don't see him being anything more than a bridge starter for the rest of the season for San Fran. I think they're going to run the year out with him, but then I think they're going to look for other options, whether that's free agency, whether that's a draft pick, because they want that flash. They want that pop. This is a fan base that's seen so many of their great players walk out the door, a great coach come in. They didn't even have high expectations for the season based on all the turnover, but those expectations have just been blown out the window because they really just look and play like a lost and confused team. And I think if you look at Gabbert's track record, it's just too risky. It's too risky for them to try to build a franchise around. They're not going to sell that to a coach. They're not going to sell it to a GM. I certainly don't see the fan base being sold on Blaine Gabbert. And the problem is twofold. If they actually go into next year with him as the starter, and he makes any type of mistake, the damage to his reputation is so strong that the fan base would probably say, no matter what he does the rest of this year, well, that's the Blaine Gabbert we expected. That's the Blaine Gabbert we thought we were going to get, and here he is, ruining our team. And that's a shame, because I like a good comeback story. I like to see a player that went through a lot of adversity, learn from it, grow as a person, grow as a player, and then put it all together. I just don't think San Francisco is the team that's going to be conducive to letting all that come together. I would love to know your opinions on it, though. I appreciate you checking this video out, and I'll be back in the week. Tomorrow, actually, I have a Madden breakdown, so I'll be back in the week with more content.